The date is 17th December 2010 in a Tunisian city called Benrouz, when a local 26-year-old man called Mohamed Bouazizi had finally decided that he had just about had enough. Having made his living from his work as a street vendor, Bouazizi effectively had no choice but to deal with the notoriously corrupt authorities propped up by the Tunisian dictator Ben Ali. But in recent years, the issue for the vendor had become increasingly bad. Having run out of the funds necessary to bribe police, Bouazizi had been subject to a series of harassment campaigns that had finally led him to the edge. But with political freedoms limited and abuse of power essentially the norm, Bouazizi was practically powerless to do anything about it. However, human desperation is an exceptionally powerful force, and independent of any safe methods to express itself, is bound to manifest instead in an inevitably more destructive manner. And that is exactly what happened to Bouazizi, who in his despair could only react with violence. Violence that the soft-natured and well-spirited Bouazizi could only in good conscience inflict upon his own self. When, in a final act of defiance and hopelessness, the street vendor set himself on fire in an extraordinarily powerful act of self-sacrificial protest. But whilst Bouazizi's life may have been somewhat unexceptional, his death would prove to be anything but. See, to many viewers, the act of self-immolation may seem to be a bizarrely radical action. However, for the millions of not only Tunisians but also Arabs who had been subject to similar mistreatment in their own lives, the burning pain of systematic oppression felt all too familiar, and Bouazizi's death had struck a chord. The despair that he felt, spreading through the bones of millions who, like Bouazizi, could no longer even bear to try and tolerate their situation. And then,
Hence new beginnings for Tunisia.
By Mohamed's actions,
The culmination of unprecedented protests
Thousands gathered to demand
which
justice.
ultimately forced the president
Revolutionary
from power.
feelings
Protests in Syria, all calling for the regime to fall.
you see, Bouazizi hadn't died in vain, because thanks to his sacrifice, these people no longer felt alone, and rather than despairing about their political environment, they instead felt a sense of rage. Collective rage that through the potent communicative channels of early social media began to spread like wildfire, as the people slowly began to realize that together they were a lot more powerful than they thought. See, Bouazizi had awoken the sleeping giant, and eventually their rage turned to hope. Hope of a better future, free of corruption, free of tyrants, free of abuse. A world where a death like Bouazizi's could no longer even be possible. And before long, the people took action, filling out the streets of a series of Arab cities. From Tunis to Cairo, Damascus to Sana'a, Tripoli to Manama, and more. Their demands not only reform, but also the removal of the very dictatorial regimes that had created this hellscape in the first place. And that is the story of how one street vendor birthed the Arab Spring. Now, I'd love to say that this story has a happy ending, but unfortunately, rarely does reality play out like it does in Hollywood, and the consequences of the Arab Spring have produced mixed results, to say the least. While some countries, like Bouazizi's Tunisia, were in fact able to oust their dictators and transition into early democracy, the effects in other countries tend to lean more on the negative side, with some states experiencing mild upheaval and others full-on civil war that has led to the death and displacement of millions. So this of course begs the question, was the Arab Spring even worth it? Well, that notion's effectively impossible to refute without coming across as insensitive towards the plight of the tens of millions who continue to suffer from its consequences, even to this day. However, to say that any response to injustice can in any way be classified as not worth it is equally as short-sighted. Indeed, the only proper answer to that question is that there is no proper answer. To classify something as exclusively good or exclusively bad loses sight of any nuance. But if there is any lesson that should be taken from the Arab Spring, it's that even in light of the most exceptional of hardship, the human spirit is an exceptionally powerful force, and that even seemingly the least exceptional amongst us bears the potential to forever alter the world, and sometimes if they're lucky, even for the better. This has been Sean from Into the Ether. If you enjoyed the video, please like, comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and ciao!